Welcome into Corso Catone, the real deal New England feel, and we're so excited to be in for the premiere of Corso Catone. And we are the real deal New England feel, and we are happy to be joining you. So excited to be joining you weekly. It is the 12th day of January 2021. We're going to be joining you every week, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, like we are tonight. All sports on the table all the time. And we want to make sure we talk about the Patriots, the Bruins, the Celtics, the Revolution, the Red Sox, and we're going to talk about the New York Yankees for those Rhode Islanders out there that are diehard Yankee fans like Mark, like myself. And we want to hear from you. Hey, look, we're Patriots fans, so we keep our Patriots phone number, 855-313-PATS, 855-313-7287. And our producer, Joe Guarneri, will be joining us too, but he's got us up on YouTube Live. It's a radio show, but you have the ability to be able to see us too, or on YouTube, that live broadcast, to see us, hear us, chat in. We want to hear your thoughts. Everything's on the table, all sports related, and we'll get it back to New England sports, we promise you. And I'm joined by my longtime broadcast partner, as always, Mark Catone. And Mark, listen, welcome in to Corso and Catone. We are the real deal New England feel,
Absolutely.
Mark. How do you feel about that tonight?
Listen, I'm excited, Chris. This is a new chapter in our show. And listen, we're going to give it to you straight. We're not going to pussyfoot around or BS around. Listen, we're not associated with any of these teams. We're sports fans just like everybody else in New England is. And we're going to give you our honest opinion. And we're going to cut to the truth and tell you what we really think and what's really going on out there. So this is the real deal.
And you know what? Maybe we'll get lucky and Mark will, maybe he'll lose it a little bit and throw a few items around. Joe Guarneri, our producer, he's always happy when Mark starts throwing his equipment around, his microphone, his headset, and every other thing. And listen, we're going to work out the kinks. There's going to be a few little things going on, but we're going to work through it with you. And Mark, listen, to start off, it's NFL season, it's playoff season. We know the Patriots are out of it, but there's still a lot of Patriots talk. There's still a lot going on, and nothing is more in the headlines than Bill Belichick today with what's going on with this award and whether or not he was going to accept it or not accept it. And for those of you who don't know, President Trump offered to Bill Belichick the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's the highest honor a civilian can get, and other sports figures have gotten it over the years, over history. But it is the highest honor you can get, and naturally, with all the things that are going on and all the current state of events, there was some question as to whether or not Belichick is he going to accept it? Should he accept it? Should he be should he even be involved in that sort of discussion right now with all the things that have happened? And look, Mark, he's aligned himself, with Trump over the last 4 years.
Well, they've been friends for years.
Right. And so
last 4 years.
Right. So now, with everything that's going on in the current pulse of the state of the country, and listen, we're a sports show. We're not a political show, but look, this is hot in topics. This is part of what's going on in the sports world right now. Other honorees in the past have been golfers. Annika Sorenstam, Gary Player have gotten this award in the past. So, Mark, what's your reaction now? And for those of you who don't know, he did decline yesterday. Belichick declined to take the award. And basically what he said, he issued a statement basically saying subsequently that he's declining, and the tragic events of last week that occurred have affected that decision to be made. He said, above all, he's an American citizen with great reverence for our nation's values, freedom, democracy. He also represents the New England Patriot family and his Patriots team. And one of the most rewarding things in his professional career took place in 2020, when through great leadership within his team, conversations about social injustice, equality, and human rights moved to the forefront. And he was supporting his team in that regard. So, Mark, what do you think about this?
Well, I didn't think he would accept, Chris. I mean, with everything that's going on around the country, I didn't think he would accept. I thought he would err on the side of, listen, I can't go. And you got to remember something. He's a history guy, right? He's a real history guy. Belichick. I mean, he's a Navy guy. His father was a Navy guy. They both were at Annapolis. They both coached there. He's got close ties there. So I found it hard to believe when the news broke that he would actually attend and take this Medal of Freedom, even though I think he realizes the significance of the award, because I think he is a historian, but there was no way, with everything that went on, that he was going to go accept that award. I would have been shocked, Chris, if he said he was attending. I would have been absolutely shocked.
And Mark, that's the sad part about all this. I mean, because when you boil it back down, and look, whatever your political affiliation is, Democrat, Republican, did you vote for Trump? Did you like Trump? Did you not? What your views are and what took place last week, which, it's tragic. It's all tragic of what's been going on. And like I said, we're not a political show. If you want to talk about politics, I'm sure there's some other places out there you can do that. But as it relates to sports, the sad part about it is, you're right. It's a huge honor. It's the highest civilian award that can be awarded. To a civilian, to somebody who's not in the military or something like that. And it kind of sucks that he can't accept an award like that, but the one thing I will say is, if he was like, if he were coming to me, Mark, and saying, hey, because he would come to me, right? He would come to me and ask me, hey, Chris, hey, Corso, give me your opinion on whether or not because he cares, because he really gives a damn about.
Of course he does. Listen, he consulted with you before he took Harry in the draft, didn't
he? Yeah. So, I mean, he's not coming to me and asking me for anything. But if he came to me and said, hey, what do you think I should do about this? I mean, how should I handle something like this? The thing I would always say is, be true to your convictions. Be a person that stands true to what you believe. If you believe that accepting an award like this from this individual is appropriate, and you feel strongly about doing that, then do it. Then go down there and take the award. And if you feel like, it's too tumultuous, it's just too hot down there, things going on, you don't like some of the things that have been happening, or whether or not, and again, notice I'm not talking about, did Trump have something to do with what went on at the Capitol? Didn't he have something to do with did he egg it on? Did he, impeachments and all this other nonsense that Mark and I are not equipped to deal with that. Okay. The bottom line is this: it's an individual situation. If he's looking at Trump and saying, look, I love the award. I love the fact that I'm able to, being considered for something like this, but I just can't accept it under the current circumstances because I don't like the message that may bring with it, as if I'm condoning activities, behaviors, things like that. Then I get it. That's being true to your convictions in that regard. What I would hate to have happen is there to be an influence to say, because Mark, this has been a question out there, and I want to know what you think about this, because the biggest question Patriots fans and people were talking about saying, hey, look, if he goes and accepts this award, what does that mean? Does that mean nobody wants to play for the Patriots anymore? Nobody wants to play because let's face it, most of the athletes, most of the players, have come out against Trump and down on Trump. Most have. I mean, I think it's fair to say that, right? Because that's what you see all in the media.
Yeah.
And is there a fear that, free agents won't come and play for New England, and that kind of thing. And that would be the sad part to basically, and it's a little disingenuous too. I mean, if he's sitting there saying, geez, I'm not going to do this because I don't think anybody's going to come and play for my team anymore, that would be a little disingenuous.
Listen, I don't think that's Belichick. I don't think, as based on the history of Belichick, I don't think that's what drove his decision. I think what drove his decision is his own personal convictions and his own personal beliefs, because that's the type of person he is. I don't think he listens to that outside noise, and I don't think he really cares about the outside noise. I think it was his own personal conviction that, hey, for whatever, he doesn't think it's a good idea and doesn't agree with accepting this award at this point in time. And he even notes the fact of he loves his country and all the things he's done with his team around race and diversity and tolerance and acceptance. And because of all of that, he just felt as though it wasn't appropriate to accept this award at this time. And I think he was being true to his convictions. I don't think in his mind, I don't think he was thinking anything about free agents and people wanting to play in New England. I think it was his own personal beliefs. And that's why he said, you know what? I cannot accept this award because that's who he is, Chris, right? He's,
Well, and that's the problem. And that's the issue with it all is, everybody has a slant, everybody has an agenda slant and how they're talking. So when you listen to when you listen to the media, you listen to the sports media. And as I've heard over in Boston, the Boston sports media over the last couple of days, to me, it's our job. And Mark, hey, listen, we're part of the sports media. We're part of the Boston sports media, and I think it's our job to bury that and report and present what we're on topic to present.
Yeah.
But I'm listening to some of these guys and they're talking about how disgusting it is and how, just it would be an atrocity for him to do something like this, for him to go down there. And what that does is that pulls their views out onto the table. I mean, they might as well just be giving their political views rather than doing the job that they're paid to do. Now, yeah, their opinion is their opinion. And if their opinion is that is a atrocity that he would even consider accepting an award from this particular president, okay. But to me, I think that we have a higher responsibility than that, even also, and to scale it back and say, look, my views are my views, but I'm looking at what's going on in the landscape. And like he said, he told you, Belichick said in the statement, he's flattered to have the opportunity to receive the medal, but storming the Capitol, which may have accused Trump of inciting, changing his mind, so on, subsequent to those events, as he said, on and so on and so forth. Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. I think that he is showing in that bland way he likes to show that he is in support of the cause, of the team, of the players, of the people and the things that he's heard around him. And I think he must feel that, hey, look, if I go down there and, while it is a great honor to be considered for an award like this, to go and accept it under these circumstances would send the wrong message to somebody that has this much influence. And I don't like some of the things that are going on. Therefore, I'm graciously going to decline. And I think that's the proper way. It's not for me to say, it's not for these guys on Boston sports media to say what he should and shouldn't do. Right.
Yeah. No,
it's, I mean, I don't, but the thing is, Mark, nobody's ever going to offer us a medal anyway. So for anything. So we'll just, but listen, it's huge. It's all over the place right now. And just like everything else, it's polarizing. I mean, everything to do with the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick, he's a polarizing out figure. What he does, it affects people. People react to it in different ways. So, I applaud his decision because I think you're right. I think it has to do with how he's built and how, and doing things true to his convictions. And as long as he does that, I can't ask for anything more. But so again, with that, but yeah, listen, we want to hear from you. What would any of you think out there around the country about this situation? Again, 855-313-PATS, 855-313-7287. We got some people chatting in already. Megan chats in. She's so excited for this. So we appreciate you also, Megan. So pay attention, listen in, call in. We want to hear what you all think about this. And Mark, listen, staying on topic with Belichick, where's his conviction as it relates to the GM spot now? Because we talk about the reaction to Caserio leaving. So another big news last week was Nick Caserio was hired by the Houston Texans to be their GM, thus leaving the Patriots after. And Caserio was part of the New England Patriots for what, the whole 20 years. Yep. He was a member of that organization, part of every single championship at different levels. What do you think, Mark?
Well, we've been, as you know, I've been a critic of Casario the last several years of the whole draft board, and from what we've heard the last week or so, now that he is left, is he played a big role in bringing in the information and organizing what went into creating that draft board. So, based on our last few drafts, if he had that much influence, I say see you later. I'm kind of glad he left. That doesn't bother me. However, replacing him, I think Ziegler is his assistant for player development and GM.
He was interviewing too.
He was interviewing in Denver, but I think if he ends up staying, you know how Belichick is. I know the name. Scott Pioli and different people's names have been thrown out there, but you know how Belichick is. Belichick, once he starts to develop talent from within, he kind of sticks within the organization. So if Ziegler sticks around here, he may not give him the official title, but you may see Ziegler take on a bigger role and become, somebody that's involved in that. That's just how he is, Chris. That's just how Bill
Mark,
is.
what is that? What is that? Not giving him the official title though.
Well, we're famous. That's what we do,
Patriots?
right? That's what we do. That's what we do. I'll be shocked,
what is it
Chris,
with the Patriots
if somebody gets.
stuff? That's one.
I'll be shocked if somebody gets Casario's title that he owns.
This is one of the criticisms that I have of this team. Is that whole mysterious? What does he do here? What is his job here? Are you that? Why can't they name a GM? Why can't they do what normal situations are where you bring in a GM to do a job and this is defined, this is the role, and maybe it's defined within, what their role is, and it's not necessarily the title, but what is that? Is that an egotistical thing on Belichick's part? I mean, is there a reason that you just can't because I think they've lost people. I mean, it's fair to say, they've lost a lot of front personnel, and you hear rumblings that, hey, there's no advancement there, or the promotion track is not clear in New England, and therefore we leave to go other places.
And I do think, Chris, people have left to go other places because it's come to light the last few drafts that his scouts and his player personnel people bring him information and help create a draft board, and he doesn't listen to them or listens and then says, okay, fine, but I don't agree, and takes the word of it. And we talked about this on Pat's Nation after a couple of the games. He takes the word of an assistant coach from a college or a coach of college, someone he's got a relationship in college, over his scouts. And a perfect example of that was Harry. None of his player personnel guys on their board, and this came to light over the last couple of weeks. Brea brought this up. Harry was not on their board. He was like halfway down their board. They had 2, 3, 4 guys ahead of him. And Belichick took the advice of a person he had a relationship with, the receiver coach at Arizona State. And he said, no, he liked the interview he had with him. And he put Harry in that first round spot. So I think when that happens, these guys are going to go to other organizations, Chris, and they have been. Because if he's not going to listen to me, what am I wasting my time here for?
Yeah, and then what happens?
The amount of time it takes to put together a board and to scout these guys, and then for you to not listen and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to take the word of that assistant coach over you." Why would you stay here?
Well, and again, that becomes part of advancement as well, because if you're not being listened to, and it gets out that that's the case, these guys need to worry about, hey, look, what's the perception out there? If Bill Belichick's not listening to me, that must look like I don't know what the hell I'm doing. If he's not listening to me, when in fact, clearly in that situation that you're mentioning with Harry, Belichick didn't know what the hell he was doing, or whoever he was listening to had no clue what they were doing, because you got guys behind them, Samuel, Metcalf, Jefferson, Brown,
AJ Brown.
It just goes on and on and on the list. So yeah, I mean, so now what do they do next? I mean, that's the big question is, okay, where do you go from here? Now you're talking about, well, they promote within, and that's typical Patriots fashion. What they would do is bring the next guy up, what's coming up the chain. But Mark, do you go back in time? Do you start to look outside? I mean, guys like Pioli are interviewing for jobs right now.
Yeah.
Scott Pioli had he was there for the big run the old 01 through 07 run.
Yeah, Pioli was there when you brought in some real talent.
Yeah, and then
You know?
Thomas Dimitrov, who got let go in Atlanta this season, he's out there and available. So do you think Belichick takes that kind of route where you bring a guy? Because I'll tell you what, that's the route I'd like to see. You know, I'd like to see I'd like to see the guys that have proven, that have done it before for New England, that Belichick trusts and listens to. Because look, Mark, couldn't the argument be made right now that if he's not listening to these people, then maybe they should bring in people he is going to listen to?
Yeah.
And wouldn't Scott Pioli fall under that? I mean,
Chris, Belichick's ego got so big that it don't matter who you bring in here. He's not listening to them, and he's going to do what he wants to do.
I hope not. Because if that's the case, Mark, honestly, if that's the case, if you're sitting there saying, look, Belichick's not going to listen to anyone anymore, and he's just going to do whatever he thinks is right, and it's Bugs Bunny playing first, it's Bugs Bunny playing second, it's Bugs Bunny, you know what I mean? Like,
no, but he does it all. But Chris, has he really bought into that in Bill We Trust? Like all the Patriot Nation and Bill We Trust. Has he bought so much into that he's like, you know what? I'm making the decision. I don't care what others are telling me to do. This is my decision. I'm Bill, right? I don't know. I hope not, but
I could tell you this, and we're going to get the break in a second, and we're going to come back and talk about this, because if that's the case, if it's in Bill We Trust, and he's drinking, you're saying Bill We Trust, and I don't trust anybody else to do that, then it's a pretty scary idea, thinking that way, because now you don't trust any of the people that are under you. And obviously he can't be in all places at all times, especially as he gets, as he becomes more mature. Okay. And maybe he doesn't have that type of energy to do all that stuff. But again, now you start to wonder then about the mistakes. Then is he making huge mistakes? And if the buck stops there, what about Brady? And on the other side, we're going to talk about that. We're going to hear from our sponsors. We've got great sponsors that are back on board with us. Special Sauce Podcast, Jag Media Productions, Corso Law Group, Studio 42 Graphic Designs, Mountain View Home, Watch and Security. And so we want to hear from our sponsors. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the mistakes that may have already been made, Mark. More Corso and Catone right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel, and thanks to Corso Law Group and the good, fine people over there, Mark. Listen, so we were talking on the front side of this about Belichick and his, some of the buck stops here, and he's not going to listen to anyone else. So are we rooting for Tom? Mark? Well, he's going to talk about that's a major, is that the major mistake in Belichick's career?
It is. It is. But I'm going to say this, Chris. I think if you're a New England Patriot fan, whether you want to or not, I think you got to root for Tom, because I think the further Tom goes, the worse it's going to make Bill look and this organization look for moving on from him. And the better chance you have that they're going to go out into free agency and spend some money, and they're going to really have to double down on the draft in free agency, because listen, you can't afford to have another 7-9, 6-10 season if Brady goes all the way to the Super Bowl or even the NFC Championship game and puts up a fight. And if he goes to the Super Bowl and he's playing in his home stadium down there in Tampa, if he ever won it, what does that do? Oh my God! Can you imagine if he won it? What would happen over here with Belichick? What do? You said the man was washed up. You moved on from him.
Yeah, Mark, listen, and I was talking to a friend of mine this week, and, he said to me, he said to me, "Hey, are you willing to, admit that?" Because look, for those of you who don't know, on our post-game show with the Pats Nation, Mark and I were emphatic about our position, or at least I was. I'm not going to speak for Mark. I don't want to get things thrown at me. So I was, pretty adamant about the fact that I agreed with the decision the Patriots made. Because again, I still feel like it was the Patriots' decision. I feel like it was Belichick's decision. I think if they wanted to have Brady back, they would have had Brady back.
Listen, this goes back to not last year, Chris. This is going back like
17,
2-3 years.
Yeah, 18.
Yeah, if decisions were made then properly, he would still be here.
Right.
And those decisions weren't made then.
Yeah, and I think if a decision was made to pay him, give him a contract, or not offer him year to year as they did, and they said, well, we'll go year to year. And that basically told him, we're done. We're done with you, Tom. And that pissed him off. And he played the way he did last year. And he carried on the way he did. He took his little temper tantrum in New England, wouldn't throw to the rookies, all that we've documented and everybody knows about. So, and I was on board with that decision to say, hey, look, he's going to be 43 years old. It's time to move on. I like bringing Newton in and all that. And my friend asked me, hey, you going to admit on your show? Are you going to actually admit on your show that do you think you were wrong now? Do you backpedal off that? Are you going to admit that? And I said, there was a long pause between texts there, Mark. I have to tell you, in that situation. And I said, yeah, I'm sure it'll come up, is what I said. I texted back. I said, so I'm sure it'll come up. So here it is coming up now. And it's a mistake, Mark. It's a mistake, but I'm going to qualify it. I'm going to qualify it. I'm not going to just sit here and say I screwed up and I made a mistake. It's a mistake because they did nothing. That's where Belichick made the mistake. It's one thing to say, hey, we're going to move on from the best that ever did it because we just need to go in a different direction. We need to progress and we need to move forward and all these other things that we thought were going to happen here. They didn't do that though. Well, that's Chris, why it's a mistake. Well, Chris, if you are going to do as little as they did at the quarterback Chris, spot,
I don't think it's that simple, right? So I think it was a mistake, obviously, right? Because they didn't prepare for that. If you were going to do that, you're right. What was your plan if you were doing that? However, I think in Bill's head, he felt as though with my system and my coaching, I can just plug in anybody. And we're going to go 10-6, 11-5, and we're going to make the playoffs. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. Right. So I think we talked on the front side about his ego. Listen, I think the man has gotten bigger than the building. Okay. And I honestly believe, Chris, in his head, he thought, I can just plug in guys. I don't need Brady. My system and my coaching staff and my coaching, it'll work and we'll make the playoffs and we'll keep rolling. We may not win a Super Bowl, but we certainly won't go 7-9. I think he was in shock that they went 7-9. I'm going to be honest with you. And I think his frustration, Chris, showed up. Was it the last game or was it the Buffalo game when he threw the telephone? Yeah. I think his frustration came out a little bit there because I honestly don't think he ever thought that this is what this season would be like.
Yeah, Mark, listen, I agree. You drink when you drink the own, and again, it's a mistake. It was a mistake to have gotten rid of Brady because you did nothing to improve. You did nothing to further that position nor any other position on the damn field. Let's be honest. There are very, very few of the positions were advanced this season. But at the quarterback position, which is the most important position in all of sports, in my opinion, in the most difficult position, yeah, it's a mistake. If you were going to do nothing, what you did, then why not pay the man, let him come back for the last couple more years and continue to have success. Continue to put guys around them, bring guys in, bring pieces in, keep doing that. So yeah, it was a mistake, It's a mistake in how he handled it. And Mark, I think you're right. That wake-up call, but the question becomes, is it going to be a wake-up call? And we're hearing in from Steve. Thanks you, Steve. Steve's one of our loyal listeners all season long with the Pats Nation. So, Steve, welcome into Corso and Catone. He says, yes, of course we're rooting for Tom. Come on, he says. We didn't say we weren't rooting for Tom. We said it all season.
Chris, listen.
weren't rooting for Tom.
Chris, listen, there's a little piece of me that I want to see him win the whole thing.
Yeah, I know. Listen, and I think it's a bigger piece than Mock's going to admit to. It's a bigger piece to both of us. Look, all season long, if you listen to us, we downed it all year. We had the Brady Belichick segments, and we talked about, we want Belichick to win those, because if Belichick's winning, that means the Patriots are winning. That means the Patriots are becoming successful and they're moving on from Tom Brady. But we always said, and I'll always continue to say, he's the best that ever did it. Yeah. And now seeing what I'm seeing now out of him, he's the best football player that I've ever seen. Okay. And you know what the New England fan base owes somebody like that, it can't be measured. I mean, what he brought to the table and that bridge between coach and player and all the intangibles that he brings also. Yeah, you can't measure that. I mean, and you can't possibly thank him enough for it. So, of course, I don't want to see him fail. No, I don't want to see him fail. I mean, I want to see him have success, but, it just eats at you. I mean, if you're a kind of person that's sitting there saying, I want him to lose just because, I just want him to lose. I'm just that crotchety. I'm sure there's a lot of New England fans out there, the guys that remember the Hugh Millen days, that are sitting there saying the very thing, Mark, sitting in their chairs, kicking back with this, saying, the hell with Tom Brady. I hope he loses every damn game, right? So, but the bottom line is the guy gave you everything he could give you. But getting back to Belichick as it relates to him, is it a wake-up call for him, though, Mark? Is this enough of a wake-up call for him to say what you said, exactly what you just said? Like, oh, my God, I really thought we could plug and play in that position too.
I think it's a wake-up call, Chris, because I'm going to be honest with you. I think Tampa's going to beat New Orleans next week. New Orleans didn't impress me the other day. I know.
Did anybody, though?
Listen, we were talking during the New Orleans game about New Orleans reminded you a little bit of the old Patriot teams that just, they just did what they had to do to win a playoff game because they knew they were that good and they move on to the following week. But I really think with Antonio Brown starting to hit his stride, I honestly think they're going to go into New Orleans and they're going to beat them. I'm going to be honest with you, but I just don't think they're going to lose 3 times to New Orleans. And New Orleans is noted to choke in the playoffs. So I honestly believe Tampa Bay is going to go in there and beat them Sunday night. But anyway, so that's my opinion. But getting back to what you were saying, do we really want to see him fail? No, of course we don't. Right? I don't. I want to see him be successful. Listen, he was the greatest to ever do it at that position, right? And you said the greatest player of all time. Well, you can argue maybe he's not. Maybe it's Jerry Rice. I don't know. But if it's not Brady, it's either Rice or Brady. It's one of those two, Chris. He's in the conversation of the top 2. That's for sure.
He did it. He did it at the most difficult position, the most difficult thing to do in all of sports on the planet Earth.
No, you're right.
Is Chris. The quarterback position, especially in today's game.
No, you're right, Chris.
So yeah, Rice, I get it. The athleticism of Rice and the work ethic and how he just performed over and over. Yeah, Rice, it's no question. But no, I don't think it's close anymore. I just don't think it's close, especially if he goes and does what you suggest that he's going to do this weekend, which is go in and beat New Orleans and put himself back in a championship game again. Yeah. At that point, and look who he's doing it with. I mean, you called Arians a buffoon for.
He's a cartoon character. I've been saying it all year. He's a cartoon character. Right?
So he's running that ship there.
Oh, he absolutely is running the ship.
Forget the OC there. I mean, he's the guy that's doing it. So, yeah, I mean, the thing that we have to, as Patriots fans, have to think about and wonder to yourself, look, we're all human beings. Belichick's no exception to that. Obviously, you hope the man sits back at the end of the season and says to himself, yeah, that whole plug and play idea just, I really thought we were something that we weren't. We're really not. I mean, we can't just stick somebody in there and expect it to go. This guy was that good. So I got to kind of adjust now how I'm evaluating talent, evaluating the draft, and evaluating how I retain players also. Which is something which in this circumstance is really nobody worth that much worth retaining anyway on this team. But hopefully you think
in our defense, and maybe in our defense, your defense or my defense, and maybe in Bill's defense, I think people thought Cam Newton had a heck of a lot more left in the tank than he showed.
Oh, I did.
I definitely did. And I'm thinking Belichick probably did, and he probably thought he was getting a steal when he got him at that reduced rate, right?
Yeah.
And then I think even after the Seattle game, I think people were like, "Wow, you know what? We stole him." And then all of a sudden, after the Seattle game, it was like he just went off a cliff and never was able to get back up.
Yeah.
Well, it was just the craziest thing I've seen. That he looked so good in that Seattle game, got COVID, fell off a cliff, and never got himself back up. I can't believe, I don't know. I have no idea what that was about.
I expected a hell of a lot more from him, and I don't think the Patriots should go anywhere near him.
No, I won't. Listen, he's going to end up in Washington with Ron Rivera. You mark my words. That's the only landing spot for him, Chris. Nobody's going to give him any money.
Yeah.
To play after. If you watch any of the film, who would sign him?
I heard a story. There was a story. There was a story last. Last week, and I don't know if it was Burt Breer, the MMQB. I think he threw this out there before the Patriots.
Or was it
game.
Florio?
I don't remember if it was Florio or Breer. Maybe Joe can see if you can find that. But listen, there was that story that said he was going to get 2 years. Cam Newton was going to get 2 years, $25 million a year.
No way. No,
and Chris, it would either be Washington or New England that give it to him. I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you're going to tell me right now that the Patriots are going to go sign this guy for a 2-year, $50 million deal when they wouldn't give it to Tom Brady?
No, they would get so lambasted. There's no way that he's getting $50 million.
I'll tell you what, if he does that, nobody's going to be offering him any awards after that. I can tell you that right now.
Listen, Newton's not getting $50 million from anybody.
Belichick's not going to be getting any awards from there at that point.
Chris, even if he goes to Washington, he'll get more money than he got this year. Rivera's not going to give him that much money. Maybe he'll get $6-7 million. That's it. And say, okay, come in and prove yourself again here too.
Yeah. Listen, it's again, I hope Belichick, but you talk about Mark, and I want to shift gears because they're still in playoffs right now. So you hope, right. You hope Belichick wakes up a little bit and realizes, the poor drafts that they've had. And I agree with you. It's a Cassera that we talked about that. Hey, maybe it's time for fresh blood. Maybe it's time for new, somebody new in your ear. Talking about the draft. Mark, who it's time for?
Who?
You know who should be?
You and I. Is that what you're going to say?
Absolutely. And there's the new blood. There's the new blood that needs to be the new old blood, so to speak.
There you go.
Two clowns that have been handicapping the draft for the last 30 years. Okay. And when they had about 15 rounds, I wish they would listen to us, Mark. But
Chris, I don't know if they would bring in Scott Pioli because Scott Pioli had ties to Parcells. Isn't he Parcells' son-in-law or something too?
Yeah,
Pioli.
Yeah. What the hell does that got to do with anything?
Because I don't listen. Because I don't think Belichick's going to bring someone that has a link to Parcells. Because Pioli,
you don't want anybody that's going to show up at Thanksgiving dinner.
Listen,
what's the difference? Who the hell is
Dimitrov, you could see. I could see him maybe coming back here. I don't think Pioli ever comes back here just because of that connection, Chris. I really don't.
Yeah, well, he wants to take. I think Dimitrov wants to take a year off. So, Mark, looking at what we have, I mean, you talk about these vacancies. Well, so when you look at the Patriots, okay, and let's stay on that. I mean, we're talking about management, and I said it all season long that I think that hey, it's got to start up top, and we keep looking at the players and their poor drafts and all, but there's got to be some eyeballing to what the hell's going on in the personnel department, as we've talked about all season long. Guys that they're losing, and look, they've lost at least 4 guys, high director position guys. In the personnel department, in the scouting department, in director positions, they've lost to other places for the reason you talked about, that it's, he's not really listening to us. Our voice, we feel like our voice is not heard, and they've moved on to greener pastures. You can't lose director position people every year like this and expect that you're going to have any success in the draft or in player personnel or in free agency or anything like that. So They better fix that problem. And also with the coaching staff, Mark, because there's nothing on the defensive side of the ball that impressed the hell out of me this year in tackling, in assignments, in disciplines, and penalties, and, everything, you name it. They were deficient, And so I'm looking at Mayo and I'm looking at Steve Belichick and I'm looking at these guys on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm wondering, is this the best we have? Should we be looking at some other guys? And when you flip to the other side of the ball, Mark, you say, well, we're good with McDaniels. We're good with McDaniels because he's not going anywhere. Well, Mark, look at all these openings now. There are now 7 openings, head coaching openings. Detroit, the Jets, now Philadelphia, the Texans, Atlanta, Falcons, Jacksonville, and the LA Chargers, which I think is the best one. Mark, none of those, I saw this week, he hasn't been interviewed in one of those places, Josh McDaniels. What do you make of that?
Well, Chris, first of all, he ruined himself by what he did with Indianapolis. So his reputation took a big hit. And then last year, he was bypassed by the Giants for Joe Judge. So me personally, I didn't think Joe Judge's resume was better than McDaniels. But I found
none of these guys are.
But Chris, I found
the enemy, none of them.
But Chris, I found it interesting that it was almost like Belichick went to bat for Judge last year to get him that job, because I think there's people within the Giant organization that still show reverence to Belichick and respect him. And so I think Belichick's word carried weight with the Giants for Joe Judge. I'm wondering, well, why didn't he speak to the Giants about McDaniels? So I'm wondering, what's McDaniels and Belichick's relationship like? I don't know. Is McDaniels there because Kraft is the highest paid assistant coach in football because of Kraft, and Kraft keeps promising him, you're going to be the next coach. You're going to be the next coach, because I don't know. But McDaniels, Chris, he's going to have to rebuild his reputation. I think the fact that we saw what they were like this year without Brady, I think it's become, hey, they were only what they were because of Brady and no other reason. And McDaniel, you could have had, look at what they got down in Tampa Bay. Leftwich.
Yeah, but Mark,
Leftwich is another clown. What is it? McDaniels, I think, is got thrown into the same category as Leftwich. Well, okay, we thought he was doing more than he was. Evidently, it was all time show down there. So
yeah, but Mark, isn't that a simplistic view though of it? Is that to think to yourself, well, it was all Brady. Yeah, I hate that damn argument.
Well, okay,
it was all Brady or it was all Belichick.
Well, no. I'm not talking about the overall coaching of the team. I'm talking about offensively, the schemes and the system and things that they did.
I mean, it's got to be a combination. Look,
well, it's not in Tampa Bay right now, I don't think.
No, maybe not. But there's got to be some influence with Leftwich down there. There's got to be something. I mean, it isn't just Tom Brady that's sitting there.
No, there is. You're right. You're right. There is some influence. He holds the what is that, Surface Pro? He holds it for him, and he shines it before he gives it to him. He does. Leftwich gives him the Surface Pro. That's all he does. What does he do? He wipes his helmet down for him.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Okay, with regard to McDaniel, because if you look at this team this year, this past season, I got to tell you, to win 7 games with that team, to me, and I know it's just crazy, that's an accomplishment. They were that offense had nothing, Mark. I mean, that the tight end position was invisible. Asi caught a touchdown in the last week of the season. He ran a 7-row. Finally, that's it. I don't need to look up the stats.
By the way,
they had 3 touchdowns.
Chris, by the way, did you look at Cam Newton's stats against the New York Jets and the rest of the league? Cam Newton was an MVP quarterback.
That's where he threw all the touchdowns.
Yeah, in the 2 games against the Jets. So
he only threw 8.
So the Jets are horrific.
He only threw 8. What did he throw? 5 of them against the Jets?
Something like that. Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, listen, McDaniel did. I mean, you could see the frustration on his face all season long. With what he was doing. It was like trying to coach with one hand tied behind your back. It really was. And so Chris, I'm happy they're retaining him.
No, I'm glad they're retaining him. I think if you give him the proper weapons and a quarterback he can mold, I think he'll be successful. But getting back to your point about the fact that we won 7 games and you think it's an accomplishment, I'm going to say something to that is, and I've been saying this to you since week 4 or 5 of the season, there's a lot of bad teams out there and a lot of bad coaching. We want to talk about coaching vacancies. Chris, every week I tell Chris every week, do you realize the amount of bad coaching that's in this league? When you watch these games and you watch decisions and you watch some of the plays that are called and when these plays are called, and you watch when these guys are calling timeouts, not calling timeouts, throwing challenging
Clock management.
flags.
Yeah.
Clock management. Chris, there is a lot of bad coaching and bad teams, because I'm going to be honest with you. I think Miami, everybody's throwing kudos and flowers at Flores and how good Miami's defense is. I think Miami stinks. Miami's nothing more than a 500 team themselves, if that. The league is so bad. They won 10 games. They're not a 10-win team by no means, Chris.
Yeah, and I know, Joe, I know we got to go to break. But listen, and coming back on, we want to continue that because it's a perfect segue, Mark, to what we want to talk about next, which is just what you said, talking about what's left in the playoffs, what the hell it looks like, and what really does the NFL look like? How long is it going to take the Patriots to get back? How much longer really will it take to get back? All that and more, Corso and Catone, right after this.
Get to the point where I understand my passion enough to communicate it outward and dial myself in so that I can craft my own sauce. But you don't have anyone that's going to give you the right advice. Now you do. We've been discussing where we live and what areas do we want to always talk about. And really, it's startup, it's finance, and drive. We are Special Sauce Podcast.
Back in with more Corso and Catone. And Mark, listen, we want to thank our sponsor there, Special Sauce Podcast. Always very supportive of the show. Log on, check them out. They are some smart guys over there talking about some smart people over there, talking about finances. And, Mark probably things that you and I never really can use anyway, because, how many finances can we be bringing to the table to talk to the boys over at the Special Sauce Podcast, Marcus Aurelius. Anyway, Mark, on the front side, we were talking about the, how far New England is away, really. But I want to talk about the reaction to some of these games we saw this past weekend. First of all, what did you think? And I want to know what every one of you thought out there about Super Wildcard Weekend. They're calling it Super Wildcard Weekend, which is basically they added one more playoff team, the seventh team. They only had one bye. What'd you think of that, Mark?
Well, so I think that
I like that.
I like that. I like the catch super wild card, right? I think it was good. I mean, don't get me wrong. As a Patriot fan, I don't necessarily know if I like the fact that they're only giving out one bye now going forward. But I think
why you think we were going to sniff that anyway?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, I do. No, but I do think that. I think that it worked. I think the Super Wild Card created some excitement. I think it worked. You had a couple of primetime games on Saturday night and Sunday night. And I think that it worked. I think they had, you had a plethora of football. You had all day long football on Saturday and Sunday. Listen, the NFL is a cash cow and it's a ratings cow, right? Typically, and people love to watch NFL football. So I think it was great. And I would continue to, I would definitely continue it. I hope that wasn't just a reaction to COVID because of the type of season they thought they were going to have, right? I hope going forward that they keep this format with the same number of teams, and because I think it's good for football, right? And I think it adds an excitement to it.
I do too.
Last weekend was great,
Yeah, I do too. Again, it was exciting, a lot of exciting football. It was pretty close games. I mean, they weren't too much blowouts. I mean, some of these games were within a score or two of that. And the Tampa game even was too, that was when we thought that coming in, we thought that Tampa game against Washington was going to be, they were just going to wipe the field with them. And look, it was one of those typical Patriot playoff games where you never really felt like Washington.
No, you never thought Washington would win the game.
No, I mean, but it's not like Tampa just routed the team. I mean, it won 52-0. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like the national championship game last night. But it was competitive. I really thought in that particular game, I really thought that talking about Tom, I really thought Washington would put a lot more pressure on than they did. I thought Tampa handled that pressure well, which tells me, makes me want to agree with you more in thinking that Tampa can go a little further. Because, but Mark, it said that Tampa game, and everybody expected him to win that game. I don't want to spend too much time on that game. Other than the fact that Brady played, and I thought he looked fine. I mean, he's still off a little bit. There's still some, it's not clicking a little bit here and there. And to be honest with you, Mark, I don't know that Mike Evans is really gonna. He just doesn't seem like a guy that's bought in there, does he?
No.
He says it, but he doesn't look happy, does he?
No, he doesn't. I just think that, no, he doesn't. He doesn't. The guy that I love, and I love him, is Godwin. Yeah. And I really wish, and I think that was one of the best balls Brady threw all night, was the touchdown pass to Godwin. I really would love to see him in a Patriot uniform next year. I know there's several wideouts who are free agents that could fit here. We need so much help. I mean, I could probably fit here if I, get myself back in shape for crying out loud.
Yeah, but the only thing you're missing are the gloves. That's it.
The gloves and about 6 inches, 7 inches of height.
No, you'd be all set to go. Sure, absolutely. You can run a 9 route with the best of them, man. You'll leave people in the dust.
Chris, listen, you know what I need? They need to bring back the stick-em like Freddie Blitnikoff for me. I need to stick them all over my body to catch the ball.
Right. On your body is right. You should hit you anywhere and just stick to you.
Right. But listen, but in all seriousness, I love Godwin. You know that. So, But you're right. There's something still that's not clicking 100% with Brady. However, with that said, if they can protect them like they did last week, Chris, I honestly think they're going to beat New Orleans. I really think so.
I mean, I don't think New Orleans has as good of a front four as Washington does. So
no, they don't.
That's why you give them a chance in that game. You do. Now again, if Thomas is clicking, Thomas was back first time in 3 weeks. Kamara was back after the COVID list thing or whatever reason he was out. So maybe New Orleans gets back on track a little bit more and gets clicking a little bit more. But I listen, out of some of these other games, is it possible that LA with that front? I mean, listen, out of all the teams I watched this weekend,
they got the best defense in
the best defense in the NFL. That team is clicking on that side of the ball. Think about what they did, Mark. They went into that game.
Chris,
no quarterback. Quarterback.
Chris, let me ask you a question. I know they're going to go into Green Bay, right? I know they're going to go into Green Bay, but listen, there's no fans at Lambeau. So you lose that advantage of having that crazy fan base at Lambeau, right? Because if you they're right on top of you at Lambeau, the way the stadium is constructed. But they're not going to be there. So
it's the weather that'll matter, if anything.
The weather will matter. I don't know what
that favors the defense.
It favors defense. Could this team do what the Broncos did? I mean, Manning couldn't throw more than 10 passes that year. His arm was falling off, for crying out loud. Could LA do what Denver did and ride that defense all the way through? I don't know.
It depends on what they get. Honestly, it just depends on what they get from the quarterback spot. I mean, you're talking about a team that went into that game, okay, and they had no quarterback. No. I mean, the kid that they were playing, all right, went out early in the game, and now you bring Goff back in, and for whatever reason,
did he have screws in his finger or something?
He had 3 screws in his thumb. Plus, I don't think they have all that much confidence in him to begin with anyway, Goff anymore, with the second half of the season he had. But he's got pins. He's got pins in his thumb, and he's trying to throw the ball. You could see it. He couldn't throw the ball. So you're playing a football game, a playoff football game, without without a good serviceable quarterback. And they still, won going away as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that defense was lights out. So, Mark, listen.
If Donald's healthy, and they say he is,
they'll do whatever they got to do to get him on the field.
No, Are you kidding me? But they said he could have went back in the game. If that game was close, he was itching to come back, and they said, no, we're going to hold you out. If Donald's
Cup is who you got to worry about a little bit.
Cup you got to worry about. But if Donald's healthy, Chris, they could wreak havoc, because remember, the left tackle for Green Bay is out. He's out for the year. He hurt his knee. So without that left tackle, where do you think Donald's lining up? He's going to line up over on that left side of the line all night, and he's going to come after Rodgers.
Yeah, listen, it could line up. And this just sounds like this is just Brady like, isn't it? Isn't it? You get LA go in there, all right, and they pull the upset and they beat Green Bay, and guess who's hosting?
And you beat New Orleans and you're hosting.
Guess who's hosting? That means Tommy Boy doesn't have to leave Tampa in order to win another ring, a 7th ring. So, it could all line up beautifully for him. So is that. But Mark, so yeah, I mean, I give LA every chance. And you know me, I'll always give defense a chance. But Mark, tell me something. Not to switch gears too fast, but what the hell happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, I don't know. Listen,
and Steve, this is for you out there. We're gonna talk for our good friend Steve, who I know is a huge Pittsburgh Steeler fan.
Well, Steve, I don't know you, Steve, but I know Pittsburgh folded like an accordion. I know that. Oh my, awful, absolutely awful. Listen, Roethlisberger looked old. He looked like
he got a little bit back as the game went on.
What did he get back? He played against a coachless team. Listen. How about he pulled the Cam Newton against Denver in the Super Bowl? He didn't want to jump on the fumble near the end zone. He was afraid to jump on the ball.
Yeah, I know what happened there. I don't know what happened there. Look, all I could tell you is there. And I got a message from a friend of mine too at the beginning of that game. Like which team isn't ready to play today? You would think that the team that's missing the head coach and 3 other coordinators or 3 other position coaches. Okay. And I'm missing 4 players, a couple of which are Hayden, I think, was one of them they were missing. Good quality, good football players. And the head coach, who, by the way, is am I wrong in saying he's the play caller there? I'm pretty sure he is, right?
He's the play caller.
So you're missing all those guys. And here comes Pittsburgh on the field, and they decide they didn't decide to show up until the second quarter.
Was it the first play of the game? Pouncey snapped the ball over his head.
Over his head. He snapped the ball over it, and at that moment you knew. And then Roethlisberger proceeded to throw pick after pick after pick, and you wonder to yourself. Listen, I don't wonder anything to myself. I know what the hell is wrong with that team.
Well, they got great coaching.
Yeah. And that's what's wrong with that team. Look, that team, the Pittsburgh, for those of you who like the Pittsburgh Steelers, or for the Patriots fans who can't stand the Pittsburgh Steelers and love hearing this, as a Patriots fan, I hope they stay with Tomlin for the rest of their existence. Okay? Because I'm telling you now, as long as that guy is the head coach of that team, they will never win. They're never going to win a championship. And let's face it, the Pittsburgh Steelers are similar to the New England Patriots in the sense of,
Chris,
you're not competing for a championship. What the hell are you doing it for?
Chris, didn't Tomlin win 1 Super Bowl?
Yeah, but that was a residual. That was going off the coattails of Cowher,
right? Okay.
That was a Switzer. That was a Switzer championship, if I've ever seen one. That's a Barry Switzer thing coming off Jimmy Johnson with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, come on.
Right. So I will say this, Chris. I will agree with you. As long as he's coaching, they will never beat New England in a playoff game. As long as Belichick's coaching, because he will never outcoach him ever.
No, ever. Look. He may be a good guy. He may be a player's guy.
The players love him, Chris, and that's what keeps his job. The players love him.
Well, that and the fact that Pittsburgh never fires coaches.
They don't fire
coaches.
They've had
3 coaches in their whole history?
And they do go to the playoffs every year, Chris, typically, right?
Yeah, but is that enough? So you go to the playoffs every year. Look with Mark, with the talent that team has and has had, you couldn't make it work with Bell. It was Bell's fault. You couldn't make it work with Antonio Brown. It was Antonio Brown's fault. You couldn't, it's just, and now it's Juju Smith-Schuster. Now it's his
Chris,
bad.
That's a pattern there. So
it's a huge pattern.
Yeah, you got these guys that turn into cuckoo clocks and on his watch, and it's almost like it's allowed until it gets too out of control, and then he has to pull them back, and then they got to separate themselves from the guy.
Mark, they're all cuckoo clocks.
No, I know that.
They're all cuckoo clocks.
I'm a cuckoo clock. What the heck's wrong with being a cuckoo clock?
They're all cuckoo clocks. When you start giving human beings the kind of money that these guys have, okay, and the kind of pampering that these guys have, when you start giving anybody, I don't care who it is, you start giving people like that all that kind of privilege, all right? You're all going to be cuckoo clocks. That's it. That's the bottom line. Who can manage the cuckoo clocks the best? Joe can't figure out how to manage us. So how the hell,
Joe just shut my mic off on me. No,
no, but listen, seriously, as long as he's there, he can't figure out how to. That team is got so much talent. They have so much talent in that team, top to bottom. And before you could say, well, the defense wasn't right. No, that team has got plenty of talent that they should be in every year, and they should be where New England was every single year, competing for a championship, not dusting for the playoffs, not winning first round, second round, and getting beat by New England. I'm talking about competing for a Super Bowl. That team should be that organization should be ashamed of himself, because I'll tell you what, if you could take the player personnel department of the Pittsburgh Steelers
and give them to New England
and marry that to the coaching staff of the New England Patriots, unstoppable they would be, because that team drafts well. The Steelers draft well, and they get free agents too.
The Baltimore drafts well. I can't stand them, but they draft well.
So, and that was, and that was another game too. I was happy to see, that was another game I was happy to see. The Baltimore game, Baltimore, I don't like Baltimore. I don't like Tennessee. I don't really like these teams, but for some reason I've developed a disdain for Mike Vrabel. And you would think I would like Vrabel because he was a Patriot and he won Super Bowls with New England. But I don't know. I've developed this disdain for Vrabel. I just think he's such a cocky, arrogant guy that I want to see him get slapped down every single time he steps on the field. I don't even care who it's against, including Baltimore at this point. You see, Mark, the problem I have with Baltimore, the reason why I don't really, they're not relevant to me anymore, is because as long as they have Lamar Jackson, they're not going to win a Super Bowl. That's it. End of story, period. The guy can't throw to the edges, okay? And as soon as he starts to slow down a little and he can't run the ball like he can, that team's finished. They're done. And Harbaugh knows it, Mark, right?
No, he knows it. Of course he does. He knows it. Listen, Harbaugh, at some point, Chris is going to have to make a decision. Okay, I get it. They want a playoff game. Okay, they want a playoff game this weekend. Was it because of Lamar Jackson's throwing? No, because he ran the ball for 100 yards. And Vrabel, horrible game plan. Horrible coaching, horrible game plan by Vrabel. But based on what Jackson did, you're not winning a championship based on how they won that game on was it Sunday. They're going to get well, I shouldn't say that. They could beat Buffalo. I think they'll get, listen, from what I saw this past weekend, Chris, unless something crazy happens, Mahomes is walking into the Super Bowl from the AFC side. He's walking in without
You don't give Cleveland a chance?
I don't give Cleveland a chance. And I'm going to tell you something, Chris. They're going to destroy Baltimore or Buffalo, whichever one of those teams goes to Arrowhead, it's going to be a debacle. They're going to get slaughtered.
What did you make of the Buffalo Bills' performance?
Buffalo should have lost the game, Chris. First of all, another guy, Rivers, old, downside of his career, missed guys, wide open guys, threw balls behind guys that were open, threw balls too late to guys that were open. The field goal kicker left 6 to 10 points on the board, right? Buffalo, listen, Bills Mafia. You want to talk about cuckoo clocks, Bills Mafia. Are they nuts? They had some guy on the TV, Pinto Jim or something, with a Buffalo Bills hat. Please. Buffalo should have lost, Chris. I'm not impressed with Buffalo. I haven't been impressed with Buffalo. All year I've told you that I think Buffalo is a phony team. Yes, the quarterback has made strides, but listen, even in that game Saturday, Chris, he got away with a couple of, he had that ball, he fumbles at the end with like 3 minutes to go at midfield. They can't jump on the ball. Indianapolis, you know what I mean? So honestly, I think Baltimore's going to go in there and beat them.
Because they can run
because Jackson's going to run the ball all over the field on that defense and control the clock. And I think that Dobbins is going to run the ball. You can run the ball on Buffalo. I think Buffalo's going to get beat.
I don't think Diggs is going to have quite the day that he wants to have with Peters over there on that side.
I don't think he will either. I think you're right. I think Peters will slow him down. Peters will slow him down just enough to win that game, I think. And that's what I think.
So then in the AFC Championship game, then
it's going to be Baltimore, Kansas City, and Kansas City's going to roll them.
And on the other side, I listen. I think Kansas City has the ability to flip the switch anytime they feel like. It's kind of like 03-04 Patriots, where
it is.
At any given time they could turn it on and it was over.
Yeah, it really is. It is 03-04 Patriots. It is.
Who do you like on the other side? Who do you put in the championship game? You're gonna go ahead, say it. Say it. They all want to hear it. Say it.
No. Reluctantly, though, I'm gonna go to that game second. Reluctantly, I'm gonna go with Green Bay, even though everything in my head tells me that the Rams are on a roll defensively, and they could parlay this into a Super Bowl run like Denver did. Based on what I watched Sunday, everything tells me, or Saturday, whatever they played, that team, Chris, that defense is poised to carry them deep. And when I say deep, they could go into the Green Bay and knock them off. But I'm going to pick Green Bay just because of Rodgers.
And in the other game,
he'll find a way to win. Do you honestly got to ask me who's winning the other game? I already told you. Tampa Bay, baby. Tampa Bay. And that cartoon character coach.
I think New England. I think New Orleans is going to find a way. And I said New England. I slipped and said New England, and there's a reason I think I slipped. Because the last thing I'll say about that is I think New Orleans is going to win that game. And the reason I do is because didn't it remind you a lot? Watching that New Orleans playoff game the other day, it reminded me a lot of typical Patriot playoff games.
It did.
Where it was for some reason it seemed to be a tight game score-wise, throughout, where Chicago hung around. And this would, the Tennessees of the world and Indianapolis and Houston, and those teams would do this against New England in the playoffs where they would hang around. The score would be close, and you didn't really even realize the score was close because you never felt threatened. There was never a time in the game where you felt like Chicago was going to even come close to winning that game, even though the score was semi-close. And then at the end of the fourth quarter, the Patriots would pull away, and in this case, New Orleans pulled away. I just don't think that Tampa's going to have enough to go in there and beat them. So that's the matchup. So, Mark,
Chris, before we go to break, I'm going to go one step
Well,
further.
I got a question for you.
I'm going to go one step further with my prediction. Brady's throwing 4 or 5 touchdowns Sunday night. 4
Then Breeze is
going
to throw 6.
He ain't throwing 6. They're losing. 4 or 5 Brady's throwing. I'm telling you right now.
So, Mark, and I ask all of you out there too, out of all the quarterbacks that are left in the playoffs right now, okay, you can have one to win one game. You can have one to win one game. Who is it? And I put this to you out there too. Come on, let's hear from you.
All right, this is at this stage of their careers, this is going to surprise you. I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers.
Really? No. See, tell me why. Tell us why, please, because that is not who I thought you would select.
Because I think, Chris, taking my emotions out of it, watching Brady this year, he did have some games where he just looked like he wasn't the same quarterback. Yes, he's on a hot streak right now. Why? It's money time, right? And I guess maybe I should pick him because when it's money time, he's there, right? But I just think watching Rodgers this year, Chris, he reminds me of Brady 5 or 6 years ago. It's like this is like his last hurrah, and he's reached the pinnacle of all his powers this year. It's like Rodgers is almost unstoppable. So if you asked me this year, I got to win one game, who are you picking? I'm going to have to go Rodgers. I know you're going to pick Brady.
I'm picking Mahomes.
Oh, you're picking Mahomes?
I'm picking Mahomes.
I'm going to tell you why I'm not picking. I'm going to tell you why I'm not picking Mahomes. Because in Bill we trust, almost shut him down in the regular season game with the Little Sisters of the Poor. We have nothing on that team, and we almost beat them. Nothing.
Mark, listen to me. This kid, okay, he has the ability to just turn it on, flip a switch, will the whole team to win. And the reason I don't pick it, and the reason I put him just slightly ahead of Brady, and I say, slightly ahead of Brady, because Brady would be the second guy that I would choose, is because.
So you put Rodgers third.
Mark, look, to me right now, Rodgers and Brady are the same guy, right? They're playing the same. Like in other words, Brady's having more success throwing touchdowns right now. He's having more success.
Chris, look at all Rodgers is good as Devontae Adams and nobody else.
But he doesn't. And Brady doesn't. Brady's devoid of any coaching over there, any support.
Chris, put Rodgers.
And look at what he's doing.
Chris, if you gave Rodgers all those weapons that he's got on Tampa, oh good Lord.
I take Brady. But the reason why I take Mahomes over Brady right now is because if you can bring somebody up, if you can get somebody in Brady's face, he can't deal with a pass rush at all.
No, not anymore. He can't.
He just can't do it, and that's why I give him the slight edge. But nah, you know what? Nah, after what you've seen for the last 20 years, okay, taking Mahomes out of this. If what you see the last 20 years, how the hell are you going to not put Brady on the field when you have a chance to win?
Listen, I was trying to be objective. Of course, I'll take Brady.
That's
That's
not what Corso Catone do.
Listen, I tried.
We're not objective.
I tried.
So, Mark, and then we're going to break now. We're gonna have a short break and come back. But Mark, the New England, you know what? I'm gonna save this question for the next. And when we come back, we're gonna talk about this one final question about football. That this show completely was dominated by football, and it should be dominated by football. It's the NFL playoffs right now. When we come back, we want to talk about the Celtics a little bit, talk about the NBA on a short break, and more Corso and Catone after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England Field. Thanks to the people over at Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal law firm. Allow us to be your voice. Mark, who's the quarterback for the New England Patriots in 2021? Go.
Chris Corso.
Come on. Who's the quarterback for the New England Patriots 2021?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah. Why? How does that happen? How does it come to be?
Because he's going to get what he originally wanted. And then next year, you and I are going to sit here at this time. And then we can really, I think, say, okay, where are we as a franchise going forward? Because I'm honestly think, Chris, I've looked at quite a few draft boards, and they have San Fran taking a quarterback in the first round, and they have them somehow prying Ryan out of Atlanta. I think he's ready to move on from Garoppolo. I think he's with his injury history, the money they're paying him. Rumor was they were shopping him last year, Chris. They were, and then they changed their mind and they took him off of the trading block. I mean, after they went to the Super Bowl, and they were debating it. This year, from what I've read, they are absolutely going to shop him around and see what's out there for him. And if they do that, the first person they're calling is Belichick. There's absolutely no way they're not.
Yeah.
Then the question is, how much do you give up for a guy like that? That's the other question.
Well, you gave a second. So
do you give a second? You got to get. So do you give a second back, or is his value going down?
I had to have gone down with his injury history, with his inability to stay on the field.
I'm going to tell you what San Fran's biggest need is, Chris.
And when though, Mark? Listen though, but when though?
But Chris,
also,
listen, San Fran's biggest need on the defensive side of the ball is corner. They would take a draft pick, maybe 4th, 5th round pick, in Gilmore.
I don't think you need to give up that much, do you?
Well, maybe you don't, but I think if you give them Gilmore and something else, you'll entice. I think that's enough to get Garoppolo out of there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but Mark, I think for some reason something in me tells me that they're going to work this out with Gilmore, that they're going to extend him. I feel like they're going to extend this player. I'm just saying Gilmore,
Chris, because what else do you have for collateral to give up? What do you have?
Just your capital and trade value. That's it. That's it. Just trade picks.
I don't know if that's enough, Chris.
Draft value. Because
I don't know if that's enough.
Well, I do. Because look, they gave New England a 2nd round pick for him. Okay.
But I think if you're going to pull the trigger, Chris, it's going to happen before the draft. You can't play this game like they did last year after the draft. Still don't have a quarterback.
Yeah. Well, that's the question that becomes when is it done? When is it done? Because they have the number 10 pick in the draft. Yeah. And I don't think he will, but Fields could fall there.
If Fields falls there, they take him. I've also seen them, Chris, on 2 or 3 different draft boards taking the kid from, the kid that didn't play from North Dakota State? Is that where he's from?
Yeah. They could. they could be looking at him too. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a Shanahan kind of guy. You know, that's definitely a Shanahan kind of guy. He can get the ball down the field. They say he can make every throw. I don't know. They played one game this year. But yeah, listen, then wouldn't it wait then until the draft? So you wouldn't be seeing this happen until the draft. I mean, should New England get their quarterback situation solved quicker?
Well, I would like to see it. Well, I'm going to tell you what, Chris. I think if you make the deal just before the draft happens, I think that solidifies the fact that in that 10 hole, they're taking a quarterback. Either it's the kid from North Dakota State, San Francisco, whether it's the kid from BYU, whether it's Fields. One of those three guys will be there at 10. You're not 4 quarterbacks aren't going 1 through 9.
Yeah.
Okay, because obviously Lawrence is the first guy picked, right? So one of the if they like those other 3 guys, or they think one of them would fit, there is a very good chance they'll be there at 10 for you. So if if it's not Garoppolo, Chris, I don't know where you go. Not that Peterson's gone, another stiff out of Philly. I don't think Wentz is going anywhere. I think Wentz stays now.
Well, so Mark said that's Mark's choice for quarterback in the Patriots.
What's your choice?
Going to be, I'm going to reserve my answer.
We don't reserve our answers.
I'm going to reserve my answer till next week, where I'm going to reveal what I think is going to happen with the coach, with the quarterback. Because honestly, there's a piece of me that doesn't want to see it, but I think Cam Newton's going to be back here next year. I think.
Chris, with all how do you bring him back here?
Yeah. So, and then we're going to get into that a lot more next week. And I want to we're here from our good friend over at Special Sauce Podcast, Marcus Aurelius. He's asking us, no Patriots in the playoffs. Tommy's in Tampa. What's next? Larry Bird, Danny Ainge back on the court. Hey, Mark. That's a prayer. Thank you for the chat in, Marcus over at Special Sauce Podcast. Check them out. That brings us perfectly into our next topic, Mark, which is the NBA, Celtics. Listen, we are a sports show. We are not just a Patriots broadcast any longer, even though it's still NFL season. We want to talk about the other Boston sports. And right now, Celtics are doing damn good right now. They got issues with COVID. They have a skeleton team right now. Looking at some guys like Tatum, Brown, all these guys are going to be out now. I think Tatum's out for 10 to 14 days. Mark, what do you make of this with the COVID and all these shutdowns with this league right now? I mean, do you think this team is headed for the bubble again?
Listen, rumor was they contemplated some kind of a revised bubble, not what they had last year for the NBA, and they didn't go with it. I got news for you, Chris. They're going to have to do something, or they're going to have to bring these players in and have some kind of a conversation with them, because you're going to listen, because your rosters are small. It's not like the NBA, right? I'm sorry, the NFL. So if you have 4 or 5 guys with COVID in the NFL, you can play, right? Yeah. You lose 4 or 5 guys in the NBA. What's the limit? I think the limit is 8. 7. I thought it was 8. Is it 7? Whatever.
No, 7 guys.
So, I mean, at some point, Chris, it becomes a safety issue too, right? So if you got guys quarantining and you got 7 or 8 guys on your team for 2 or 3 games in a row, at some point, you're going to risk injury, because guys are going to be getting a heck of a lot more minutes than they're probably accustomed to getting, right? You're going to be, pulling muscles and all kind of different things, right? So the NBA is got to do something, Chris, because I think they're in trouble. Celtics just canceled 2 games, but you could see a real quick spread. And if you do, now what do you do? If you're the commissioner,
more games were canceled tonight as well. The thing about it is, yeah, I think it can. Look, with COVID, they know a lot more than they did. The experts, the medical people know a lot more than they used to know when it first came out.
Chris,
it feels like freaking years have passed since COVID came out.
Celtics, less than a year. Didn't they have 3 of the players that are quarantining all in the car together with no mask?
Well, this was the thing. So that's
stupidity.
Yeah, well, you had Edwards, Williams, Thompson, among 1 or 2 others, I think, that were all drove together, and I think Edwards was the only guy wearing a mask in the car, and the rest of them, I think, all have it now. So, yeah, I mean, there's so much more that's known. Mark, did you hear this? This is what's interesting. And when I say about there's so much more known now, the CDC is saying that it's extremely difficult, that you're not going to get this from playing basketball. You're not going to get it on the court.
Yep.
They're saying that you need to be in constant contact. And I think that was a little unclear to me. Is it a nonstop contact or is it, but it's constant contact with someone for more than 15 minutes at a time. Okay. And then obviously the other protocols, no mask, social distancing and so on and so forth. But if you're in close contact with somebody that has it for more than 15 minutes, then you're susceptible to it. You know, the likelihood of you getting it is very high. And they're saying that on the basketball court, you're just not around you're not around other players long enough, you know, with their guarding them and they're backing in. And it blows your mind to hear something like that. Cause you think, oh, of all the sports, they're kind of really close to each other. You know, they're facing up, they're posting up.
Oh yeah.
But if you think about that it does make sense. Because you're really not around a guy for more than 15 seconds at a time. Never mind 15 minutes.
No, you're right, Chris. So
where it's going to be a problem, Mark, is off the court.
Yeah, and the NBA players are notorious for going out partying, you know, going to strip clubs and doing all that craziness, right? So I guess that's going to be an issue that they're going to have to deal with.
So heading, you know, it's a league that may be heading for the bubble again, and now they're talking about, well, maybe as it gets closer to playoffs, then they'll go to the bubble. Because look, you take a team like the Celtics right now, who are high up there in after 10 games, in win percentage, and they're right at the top of the league. And these two guys, you know, Tatum and Brown, you know, they're playing better. I saw a stat, Mark, comparing after 8 games. Comparing Tatum and Brown to Bird and McHale. Now, understand that I'm not sitting here saying that Tatum and Brown are Bird and McHale right now. But after 8 games, okay, you had Bird and McHale at 426 points combined, 53.9% shooting percentage, okay? Tatum and Brown, 425 points and 53.1% shooting percentage. And these two guys, Tatum and Brown, I don't even think have come close to hitting their ceiling yet. What's this team going to look like if we could stay healthy COVID-wise? What is this team going to look like, Mark?
They still need another piece, Chris, that Danny Ainge doesn't seem willing to pull the trigger on. They need a piece, right? As good as these two guys are.
You don't think they could piece it together with what they have and those two guys?
No.
Well, listen.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, Chris. Because these other teams have a third. Like typically, you have a third guy, right, or somebody else that can.
Well, the Lakers didn't have a third guy, though.
They didn't, but I think the Lakers only won it last year, Chris. I told you this when they won it. They only won it because of the bubble. Because LeBron had 8 weeks to get himself healthy. So did Anthony Davis. When you have the grind of an 82-game season, and then you got to go into playoffs, and you only got Davis and LeBron. They wouldn't have won a championship last year, Chris, with just those two guys if they went through an entire season the way it was set up, right? The other thing I will say is I don't know if the Celtics have the right chemistry, Chris, right now to win the championship. I think Marcus Smart we were talking about cuckoo clocks before. You want to talk about cuckoo clocks?
Yeah.
I think maybe I should rephrase this, Chris. Maybe they can win a championship with those two guys. I shouldn't say they can't. I just don't think with this particular team they will. I think the chemistry is a little off. I think you need a couple of other pieces to change the chemistry of this team. And then, they can win a championship.
Well, I will say this. I'll tell you this about, you bring up Marcus Smart. He's a guy that may end up on the block because what I saw last week, you know, you're talking about when they won that game, Joe, tell me, who's that game against that they won at the buzzer there where Pritchard put up the shot, Smart's missed? First of all, okay, with seconds left in the game, you have Tatum, you have Brown on the court, and for some reason, Marcus Smart decides he needs to drive the lane and take the shot. What? Can you imagine LeBron and Anthony Davis in LA with some other clown driving the lane and taking the last shot and missing it? What that reaction would be? LeBron would stuff the ball down this guy's mouth, down his throat. First, so there's that issue to begin with right there. That Marcus Smart comes close to taking the shot. I'd put him on the bench if I'm Stevens and say, hey, look, from now on in the last second, you're sitting here. We got guys that can do this, you know? So neither Brown nor Tatum even take the last shot. And Pritchard makes a fantastic, who, by the way, I think is going to be a hell of a good player, this Pritchard. He comes back, he follows, and he takes a shot, and they go up with 0.2 left. They go up by 2 points. or 1 point or 2 points in that game. And that's where they won the game. So now, not only does Smart do the wrong thing and drive the lane and take, and by the way, the guy he was that was guarding him was a complete stiff that he should have been able to take to the basket. And, he came up short. So not only does Pritchard get the rebound and the putback, okay, Marcus, and now the whole Celtics team is celebrating, and this clown proceeds to start yelling at the official, he throws the ball in a different direction, and he's yelling at the official because he didn't get the call. By the way, a guy who flops that much and is on the ground, is on the floor more than upright, is never going to get the call. He's never going to get the call in the NBA because he hits the ground too much. He hits the floor too much. So this guy is complaining to the officials about not getting the call when his team just went up with 0.2 left in the game to win the game. What the hell's wrong with this guy? Yeah. What if he got teed up there, Mark? He should have gotten teed up there.
Chris, mentally, there's something off. He's not right. There's something mentally not right with that kid. I'm going to tell you that right now. He's explosive. He had an issue when he was at Oklahoma State in college. I think he had an issue where he I don't know if it was a chair issue. There was something with him in college. I forget what it was, where he got violent. And there's something not right with this kid. But I'm telling you, Chris, the chemistry of the team needs to be, he needs to go. You're right. There needs to be a switch in chemistry for this team to win a championship.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. And listen, we got to get the break and come back. We're going to come back with our closing remarks. Hey, Mark, it's already been a show. It's already been a full show by, time really flies, and hopefully next week we're going to get into more Bruins baseball talk. But yeah, I agree with you, Mark, with the Celtics. I think maybe they're a year off, but I think these two guys are for real. When we come back, we're going to talk about our preview, our next show, and give you our closing remarks. More Corso and Catone after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with Corso and Catone, and Mark, our premiere show is coming to a close. And geez, man, I'm fired up. I could go for another hour and a half. I can go for another 2 hours. This was fun, Mark. This was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Definitely a lot of fun. Yeah, I know we talked a lot of football for those of you that are watching us out there. And like Chris said, it's because it's playoff time. We should be talking football, right? This is the time of the year that we talk football, right? And we're always going to have a little bit of football on every show we have because that's Chris and I. We're nuts about football, right? That's what we do. We eat, drink, and sleep football. But next week, I think on our next show, we are definitely going to get into more topics and get into some other things that a lot of sports fans in New England also want to hear about. So that will be coming for those of you who are like, well, we talked a lot of football tonight. Of course we did, but we'll be throwing in a lot more topics next week.
Absolutely. And some of the social issues that surround us right now that deal with sports that directly relate to sports, we're going to get into that. Hockey's starting up too, so we're going to talk a lot about that. Mark, this was fun. I had a lot of fun today, and so happy that we're going to be back doing this every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 7 p.m. Eastern up on YouTube. Joe will have us up chatting live so we can hear from you. Our phone number is there. It's out there. You can go back and listen to the show. But, Mark, some people to thank today. As always, we want to thank some of our sponsors. I want to thank the people over at Special Sauce Podcast, also the people over at Jag Media Productions, Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal law firm. Allow us to be your voice. The people over at Studio 42 Graphic Designs. Excellent outfit in North Providence, Rhode Island. See Mary Ann. And Mountain View Home Watch and Security, Scottsdale's leading private home and security firm. Again, next week, Tuesdays, 7 p.m., join Mark and I to talk sports, all New England sports. Everything's on the table. We want to hear from you. And want to hear your thoughts on all the goings-on in the sports world, whether it be in New England or around the country. But we are the real deal New England feel. For Mark Catone, I'm Chris Corso. We'll see you next week. So long, everyone.